and McCann.
Greetings. Welcome to Wake the Dead. Today we are extremely delighted to have our good friend back on the show, Tom Bluewolf. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, you are a repeat guest here, and we, every time it's like a ray of sunshine on my dark podcast where, we look into some really deep, nasty stuff, and whenever we talk to you, you seem to bring us back up into the light of recognizing our humanity and our connection with nature and the earth, and realizing that this is a magical place and we're very lucky to be here. It really helps us to remember. And I follow your work, and I saw that you are promoting a project that you have finished, and we would like to speak with you today about that and learn more about your newest project. Tell us.
Oh, you mean the book?
Yes, indeed. Oh, sorry. Here, I will frame it up a little bit better.
Well, yeah, I finished this book. It's been a compilation of lots of experiences. We're calling it The Great Remembering. And some folks have asked me, what is it that we're remembering? And I said, well, we feel like that for hundreds of years, and especially in this place, we went through something that's been called the Great Forgetting. We just forgot. We got all caught up in jobs and working and 401ks and vacations and happy hour and you name it. We just left the grid. We just got totally absorbed in some sort of nefarious program. Unbeknownst to us, it seemed to kind of sneak up on us. And then all of a sudden we looked around and thought, wait a minute, whose idea was this? And so then we kind of woke up, and so we're calling that the Great Remembering, and we remember our ancestors. And then we start thinking, actually you and I are the result, sitting here talking of thousands of love stories that took place. All of our ancestors, all the way back to the beginning of time, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here. Because a lot of people didn't make it. They succumbed to the genocide that's been going on this planet for thousands of years. But our ancestors somehow avoided that. We figure that's pretty special. So we're starting to remember what that means. And then remembering the fact that we all came from a mother. All 8 billion of us have a mother. We think that's an incredible commonality. And that we're all going to we all have an expiration date. So we all are born from a mother, and we're all going to leave, and we never know when. And we have no idea where this planet's going, but it's going there at 68,000 miles an hour. And so we're riding on the rock. And so that's why we feel that a lot of, especially the indigenous people, feel like it's just our duty, as shepherds and stewards and caregivers, to take care of this place, to sing and dance and to fall in love and to pick the low-hanging fruit and to take it easy, protect the water and protect the children of the future, and water is life. These things seem to have been forgotten by the general population, and we're hoping that they can remember what really matters. The Zulu called it an indaba. Indaba means a meaningful conversation about what really matters. And they do that twice a day. They have it in the morning and they have it again in the evening. So understanding that language is the fabric of the culture, we have to be careful what we talk about, because what we talk about becomes our destiny. So we start paying attention to these things. And so the banner actually flies at that point that says, it's better to be kind than it is to be right. Right seems to change with populations and And years go by, some things that used to be right aren't right anymore, but kindness is always a good policy.
Right.
These
Yeah.
kinds of things is what we talk about in this book.
Kindness is always the same. I mean, kindness doesn't waver. It's like,
Mhm.
don't harm others, show care. You know, all the other, like, what's right and wrong, and in quotes, for society does change, and it has changed. Like you spoke at the beginning about the Great Forgetting is like it's a program that's been happening, and you asked who did this. It's it's evil people that hate humans, right? So it has been like this evil program of forgetting has been destroying the indigenous cultures. It's been attacking the shamans. It's like forcefully forgetting, removing their lives from the earth so that their voice can't speak anymore. So this and the language, you said that the language is the fabric of the culture. That
Mm.
is indeed true. And the evil ones have had control of the language for a long time.
Mm.
That I think is why the forgetting. I mean, people, they're completely deracinated from their families. I mean, they don't even talk to their parents because the way they voted or some crap. And I mean, we're fully separated from each other and our history and the language of our ancestors. And you're right, we are the result of love. Like, my parents were in love at that moment, at least, and I became a human. Like, I'm thankful to have flesh now because of that loving encounter. And their parents were in love, and their parents. And if hate does not create life, only love is the doorway to this world. So why is it that that the language is focused on the hate? Why I mean, it's been hijacked, I think, by the evil. And um, helping us to remember is the great work. I think that is what, I mean, the few elders that are still here, that aren't eradicated by the evil, it's their job to speak up loudly because uh, their voices are being squashed. And you've concretized your voice into words on paper in
Mm.
the great remembering. Uh, you It says in the quotes there, it says, a book woven from the old stories, dreams, and visions that call us back to our sacred connection with the earth.
Mm.
Can you share with us some of those stories? Which is most impactful for you? What were you most happy to include in this book? What are there
Well,
some
one
that
of the
you could share?
stories I was happy to include. Well, remember that, the indigenous languages are profound in that they were written in the hearts of people who felt like they were shepherds and stewards and caregivers. So the indigenous language have no nefarious dialogue. You can't call somebody a liar. You can't say somebody's cheating. You can't talk nefarious. You can't say lie, cheat, steal, malicious. You can't, all of those words, deceit, are not available in indigenous languages. So, for instance, the languages around here, the words could mean, I walk in prayer, the earth touches the sky, this is where we pray, this is where we do our ceremonies, those kinds of things. As a matter of fact, uh, once upon a time, Turtle Island, this United States, was broken up into provinces. They weren't necessarily borders, but they were just, provinces. And so the southeastern United States for thousands of years was called Wale. and Wale means a little piece of heaven. Imagine millions of people in the only language they know waking up thinking they're waking up in a little piece of heaven because that's the language. Another instance is, you can't call somebody stupid. You can't call somebody ignorant. You can't say those things. The worst thing you could say to somebody that I'm recalling is that I could say to someone, you've been running from wisdom a long time successfully. I could say something like that, but I can't refer to that in a negative way, you know. Um,
That's
and
great.
so that's got to make a huge difference. If every time you meet somebody, you say, I am you being me, bless you, namaste, yatahe, ashtahe, all these greetings, whether it's in Hindu or Apache or Lakota or, it's always, I bless the ground you walk on, things like that. I salute the light within you, those kinds of greetings. And so, but then the colonial mindset and the English language are horrible. Poets somehow master it, but it's, if, what if, this is what we say, what if we could say this? The world is perfect. There's just a lot of people having a bad conversation. What if we could raise the level? What if we all agreed that we would raise the level of our personal poetry so that everything we said to each other was actually a reflection of what we hold dear in our hearts about what it means to be humans walking together at this precious time on earth? And then that was our dialogue with each other. And if it was going to say, okay, what if I'm going to say something to you? First, I want to say, is it true? Is what I'm about to say true? And you go, well, yeah. I say, well, is it necessary to say this? And if I said, well, yeah. Then if I say, well, then can I deliver that message in a way that's kind so that you can receive it in kindness? I say, yeah. Then go ahead and say it. If it's not all three of those things, if it's not true, if it's not kind, and if it's not necessary, then don't say it. Do something else. And so that was the unwritten protocol for thousands of years, when people would talk to each other. And so it was a time when we would reawaken the heart to the ancient dreams of the rhythms and migrations that were actually a way of life for all our people when we walked lightly on the earth. We talk to each other like that. We're humans. We're all on the same rock. We're all under the same sky. It's kind of humbling for a lot of people when they realize they owe their entire existence to 12 inches of topsoil and the fact that it rains, and so all these other things that we seem to be engaging in are nonsense when we actually consider what it really takes to be alive and what it takes to be sustainable and even thrivable. Imagine these indigenous people, for instance, up in the New York area, there were people who called the Children of the Dawn, the Lenape, who were there for over 12,000 years before contact with colonial people. They knew the trees, they knew the songs, they knew the land. They were sustainable. They continued in the same place for 12,000 years. We've hardly been here 500 years, and we've just about put an end to everything. And so, because the language being the fabric of the culture, it really matters in our future how we speak to one another, because we are part of the network of nature. We don't walk through nature; we are nature. And when we speak to one another, nature's listening. The trees are listening. Water remembers. The tobacco, the cannabis, the smoke. You see, nature can still read the smoke. The smoke carries the message. That's why when we smoke the pipe and we have dialogues, we say, wow, we're going to remember this. We need to smoke, because the trees read the smoke. The birds read the smoke. Creator reads the smoke. Everybody can read the smoke. We used to read the smoke. We used to send each other smoke signals, but We forgot, but now we're starting to remember that these things really are incredible and they matter. And so,
It's really interesting that it's all framed as language, and
yeah,
then that language frames our minds. Like we hear the words, and then we interpret our environment through what comes in our eyes and our ears.
mm,
And if we are hearing positivity
yeah,
all the time, then we are being positive. We're going to be that. If you look at
that's the
the
dream.
right,
Yeah,
like the satanic signal that they're feeding through the TV is all like, you hate yourself, you are a
mm,
cancer on the planet. The opposite of what the indigenous would constantly keep aloft, into the air of sound. There's this positive, nature is good. Humans are good. We are love. Like, I love you, and that has been hijacked, and now the only signal people receive is through screens and, you know, Wi-Fi signals and stuff. And we're all like separated after the pandemic, and where everybody's, but that really, the language is okay, it's tough. I'm sorry, it's tough to make these words come out, but like, the plane of causation is where language resides. Like, your words aren't actually doing anything. All it's causing others to hear and think. Your hands do the work, right? So like, this language uh is the pre action. It's like, before actions, the thoughts, like, if you, with the hermetic principles, like, all is mind, right? It starts in the mind, everything that's created. So we are co-creating with our minds together, and then the result of that co-creation is what we get today, the world around us. And if all the input before the creation is negative self-loathing, hatred, and, fear, then the result of that computer program is going to be slavery and domination. Basically what the dark occult is trying to create in the world, and what they're really winning. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're still here and we're still talking, so they're not actually winning. But I mean, it's tough. There are a lot of people that believe the lie. They are stuck in this illusion of negativity, and they're spinning their wheels in these cul-de-sacs of, I hate myself and I hate I mean, they're killing their own babies inside them. It's like, it's it's really evil. I mean, it's absolutely horrific what we are experiencing in the world. And I don't mean to keep talking negatively. I mean, people are running from truth very fast, if you will, and they're not looking back. And so we are here having this indaba to remind them of truth. And, hopefully these words will get in their ears. And God bless you, listeners, for listening.
yeah. Well, one of the things that I've noticed is the difference in the parallels between indigenous languages and colonial languages is that, we can only speak about that which we've experienced. So if I want to talk about swimming, I would have had to have swam. I can't talk about it if I didn't do it, if I didn't see it, if I wasn't there. So there's no conceptual. I can't dream about those things because those can turn into nightmares. Because, for instance, if you imagine I am directing my voice to you, and so you listen to what I say, and vice versa. But we can only program what we think we're hearing based on what we've experienced. So you might not even be relating to what I'm talking about because your experience was entirely different of the subject matter that I'm discussing. So if we've both been swimming, then we understand. If we both were in Grand Canyon, then we know what we're talking about. It's not an imagination. There are people who belong. They say the only nation they want to belong to is the imagination. So what we want to do is try to capture that reality. So one of the ways we do it is if we take judgment out of our language, we take criticisms out of our language, we take gossip and rumors, hearsay, we take that out of the language. And we only talk about dreams, ideas, visions, and solutions, with the understanding that everything we talk about is being listened to by the babies, by the birds, by the trees, by the animals, by the water. Everybody hears us. And the vibration and the frequency and the energy associated with those words can either be a contribution, a participation, or a benefit to the sacred aspect of Mother Nature always giving birth. Because we're literally walking through creation. How do you behave in a room with a woman you love when she's about to have a baby? You walk a little softer, you talk a little softer, you want to contribute, you want to participate. And Mother Nature is always giving birth. Always. Every second of every day, something's being born. And so we are walking through creation. So that's why indigenous people honor this sacred moment, these sacred steps, these sacred ways. If you say, I'm going to reawaken my heart to the ancient dreams of the rhythms and migrations that were a way of life for our people when we actually did walk lightly upon the earth. We learned the songs of the trees. We learned the songs of the water. We learned the songs of the animals. We sing those songs. The more we sing those songs, the more intimate the relationship becomes between life. And that's why a lot of people in the indigenous community honor the ceremonies they have by saying, all my relations, all of my life is my relation. How do you relate to life? Well, you want to be loving and kind and gentle and respectful and reverent, forgiving and in love and all these wonderful characteristics. If you do, now we have the process of sustainability and thrivability. If we don't, then we divert and then we digress and then we become servants, we become propaganda, we become controlled, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning and everybody's afraid, everybody's greedy, everybody's crazy. They're not,
Yeah.
the words and the energy and the frequency has just been stirred to where nobody feels loved anymore. People feel separate. And once they feel like there is no center, there is no focus, then there's chaos. And you don't want to walk around like only the people who want to control other people. It's kind of like the world has become narcissistic and psychopathic and sociopathic, and it's in the air. It's like the plague. It's like COVID. You know what I mean? It's like we're just messing with our character, messing with our quantum physics, and so we have to stay strong. And I can tell you this. Let me get this here.
Do the songs help to keep us strong?
This, this is something as simple as the United States Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the fact that is like saved, those words are kept.
Here's what I want to say. Check this out.
Please.
And this is a good place to begin. We can say, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's a really great place to begin. And so, because then we have said, look here, we're all in this together. We need to, everybody might not be in the same boat, but we have to realize we're in the same ocean.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that we understand these things and do
It
unto
sets
others
it
as you'd
sets
have
the
them do unto
intention.
you. These kinds of awesome phrases by incredible people from the past. Uh, that talk about every religion at the heart of it says, do unto others as you would have them, be kind, be gentle. There's babies in the room. You know
Right.
what I mean? Women are divine. In the indigenous languages, the word for women is always something beautiful, like heaven on earth. The Lakota people, when you say their word for woman, it means heaven on earth. Uh, the Muskogee word for woman means life giver.
Yeah.
And so, the word for man means life protector. So, of respect and honor amongst the men and women. Men honor the women, women respect the men. If that could happen, then we've got a really good start on, then when we speak to one another, the words come out because out of respect we say these good things, and we try to frame it in a way that you can receive. People rarely receive information if it's not kind. You know what I mean? If
Good
it's
point.
domineering, if it's slanted. See, that's what English has, like sarcasm, it has satire, it has irony, it has all these things that you really never know if they mean what they're saying because they could say, "Oh, well, I was just being, ironic. That was
Mm.
satire. I was exaggerating." You know what I mean? You can't do that in indigenous languages. You tell the truth. It is what it is. You don't play
Wow.
with the language. That's the future. That's the magic. And it's kind of like giving somebody the wrong energy, the wrong message. Say one thing and do another, And so
Mm.
these things. And I was reading about when I started seeing what was happening in the world, and I looked back on and people say, well, he's breaking the Constitution. The administration is breaking the Constitution. Well, it's true. They are. Because if you read what that just said, that's not what's happening. That's not what's coming out of the White House right now.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I don't have anything bad to say about people, but the process has gone off the road.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no guardrails, and so we have a metaphor, I guess, or an analogy where we think about being on what we call the good red road. The road. And that road is like honesty and truth and purpose and dignity and respect and love and care and concern and shepherding and stewarding. Then you're on the road. You're being a human. Once upon a time, humans were the immune system of the mother. We made sure she had a good day. We were shepherds. We were stewards. We were caregivers. We made sure that everything was proper and just and fair. And when that when that fell apart, this is what happened. Now people are scared. They can't go anywhere. We're running out of food. Everybody's great. Profit is so far ahead of ethics right now. It's ridiculous. When
Yeah.
somehow or another we have to put ethics back on the front row and
Right.
have profit be somewhere in the background because ethics and morals and value-based decision making are significantly uh, in poor shape right now.
None of the ethics language has been, I mean, I guess the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and that's the type of ethics language that was saved and remembered and held up, but in modern times we don't have anybody speaking up for ethics besides like podcasters or native
But one of
elders
my
like
favorite
yourself.
guys who did that was Noam Chomsky.
Oh well, yeah.
He had a pretty good handle on ethics.
Yeah, well, not really. He's friends with Epstein. I don't know if you know that, but Noam Chomsky had many meetings with Epstein, and he also, when asked about Building 7, he told Bob Tuskin, my friend, told him that you're stupid if you don't believe the official story of 9/11 and don't ask questions. Noam Chomsky is a gatekeeper. He says the good things, like you said. So his language is he He was saying what people want to hear so that people trust him. And then he turns into this net catching all of the people that have care. And then he's going to lead them down the path that he wants. Right. So like he's using that English language that's deceptive that you were mentioning earlier. He was not speaking from his heart. And also regarding the COVID situation, he said anybody that doesn't take the vax can leave society and they can starve. That's okay. They can die. So no, I'm sorry, but I just have to say that about. I mean, you brought up his name, and I
Well,
can't.
there's I'm well, it's a delicate matter to talk about anybody. I mean, there's everybody has so
Yeah,
it's complex. It's very
they make
complex,
mistakes
but he
sometimes. Yeah,
has said some good things that make sense.
I agree.
That
Yes,
doesn't mean that he didn't catch the disease. And I'm telling you, when you get close to fire, you're going to get burned. And you might have been sweet and kind and gentle until you hit the fire, and then you got burned, and then your everything changes. So I mean, I've met beautiful people who turned into ogres. I've met ogres who turned into beautiful people, and so things change as
right.
time moves on.
Yes,
So we just have to keep holding the lantern. One of
right.
the metaphors I like is the metaphor of being a lighthouse, because lighthouses don't run all over the island looking for boats to save. They just stand in one place and shine. And
Yeah,
if that
that's
lighthouse shines that light, then it gives you a good sense of where you can stand on solid ground. All you have to do is get close to that light, and then you're on the ground. And then you decide, you make the
right.
decide. You don't follow anybody's lead. You be the leader of your own story. It's your life. I was involved in a production, a theatrical production once upon a time, and it was costing $1 million an episode. No TV show, long time ago. $30,000 a minute, right, for this show. And people were pulling their hair out and screaming at each other, running around, tripping over wires, and trying to make it all happen. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, well, this looks like an analogy of life on Earth. You know what I mean? We're running around screaming at each other, trying to make a dollar, trying to pay the rent, find your pay these
Yeah,
bills. I'm screaming at each other. So I thought to myself, what if you had the same idea about your own personal life? What if it wasn't a show or a TV show or a film, but it's your life you're talking about? And I'm not talking that you're going to say it's going to be $1 million an episode, but if you treated it like it had some value, so that the decision you make really matter, because you're on the earth. We're going 68,000 miles an hour. You're not going to be here very long. It's all going to come and go so fast. What decisions are you going to make? What's your legacy going to be? We are all waiting to be ancestors. At some point, we're going to be the ancestors of the future. So how do we behave in such a way? Do we just say, okay, we're all going to die? Of course, we're all going to die. So that's a good one. But what are we going to do while we're here? So
yeah,
our impression is we speak kindly to one another. We take care of our children. That's the future. Take care of the water. Water is life, and children of the future. It's pretty basically. I mean, it's just really basic stuff that native people seem to engage in, and I believe that's why native people are still here, and a lot of these other people have come and gone, because
right.
that's, I mean, and it's hard to point to anybody and think, well, they were perfect. Of course, they may have said some good things, and then all of a sudden you see them in a bar somewhere and they're acting like crazy people. But the other day they said something really sweet.
Right. Well, yeah, I
It
mean,
keeps
it's
going in and out, so it's hard to quote people.
kind of like the same way with the Constitution, right? They make a new amendment here and they make a new amendment there, and then it whittles away at like the Bill of Rights, and then they got these other ones, and um, it's like they're chipping slowly away. Like at the beginning, they had this like you know uh, great idea to protect the sovereignty of the individual, and
Mm.
now it's come down to we have the Patriot Act and we have like civil asset forfeiture, and like, I mean, it's eroded so far, and I mean, it's become, I guess, well, I mean, psychopaths will create a system where they can be dominant, and that's just happened over the years. And the indigenous people are, being the fruited spirit on the planet, but psychopathy is existing. I mean, it's not anyway, so it's apparent, and it's there, and it's like a disease that these people have, and they have convinced us that the money is worth more than the time, and really our life is like, should be valued as $30,000 a minute, or whatever, because it is true that we're only here for just a blink of, really, and it's such a gift to be here in the present, and acting and doing in the world. And they're putting together, that TV show was putting together this production, everybody working together to make this thing, this perfect union, and it's really, it's interesting that we don't value time anymore, and we don't like, and this existence, like when I go to work, it's like time stops, and I can't do anything I wanted. I've got all these projects I'm trying to do, and so like every minute I'm at home, I'm like on the computer working, and then I got to go to work. Shit, it's like everything stops, and then I'm like in this like just suspension of time, like until I can go like live again. But and they make me value the work. I must go, and it's the only way to get food type crap. And so like, it's the lie. It's a lie signal, and it's all lies that they work with. And that's how the English language is deceptive. And that is what, everything is based on, the language. It's like I was saying earlier, we don't have the ethical language nowadays. It's everybody is thinking about, I mean, there's how many reams and volumes of law cases are created and written down and saved forever, like this, if you do this, you will get punished, and okay, and that will stay forever. And it's like these negative things saved into our language, and that language is what is creating, the union of everybody together, and we're all working on that language. But we don't hear the ethics, it's and the natives had like when they would first meet someone, they would be like, I recognize you as light and good. And so, but now we see everybody as like, oh, they're trying to take something from me. I need to protect, I need to steal from them. It's shifted everything. So the way that, I mean, and the only way that we can overcome that is making more of our own, speaking out of our own language, and creating more of that for that signal to overpower. I mean, it's not like we can go dominate and control, people need to choose with free will what to listen to, so this great remembering will bring us back to the true language of humanity, right? These old stories and dreams and visions, that is how we can stay strong in our positive language, and to create the positivity with our will and actions as a result, right?
Yeah, you're right. I was told that when the Trail of Tears took place here in the 1830s, that a lot of the people, because they'd been here thousands of years, and so it was a really, really sad day. And so when they actually realized they were going to have to leave, and the heartbreak was devastating, and they said, oh, what are we going to do with our treasure? Well, when the colonial people heard him say that, they thought they were talking about gold. And so they're still digging up the mountains around here looking for the gold that people buried when they left because they couldn't take it with them. But that's not what they were talking about, because the word wasn't treasure in the native language, even though it translated into English in their heads. That's what I'm talking about, the language being so convoluted. What they were talking about in their treasure was what was precious to them, was the songs of the trees, the songs of the animals, all thousands of songs. And so, and the more we sang those songs, the more intimate our relationship became with the place we lived. If we lived in a place for 30,000 years, that develops a deep empathy. I mean, a deep connection to the place. So somebody said, well, maybe we can put them in a big old trunk and bury them. And they said, no, they'll find it. We'll put them in a cave. They said, no, they'll find it. They come up with all these ideas about things they could do with all these songs. And finally, one grandmother stood up and she says this, there's only one place I feel that our songs will be safe. People said, where's that? And she said, well, we all have to come together and come up with the sweetest dream we can imagine and put our songs in that sweet dream. He said, all these people who live in this nightmare won't have access to them. They'll never be able to visit a sweet dream. They live in a nightmare. If by chance they stumble into a sweet dream, they're welcome to a good song. And so everybody felt confident that their songs were safe. And so, 200 years later, 150 years later, whatever, tribes in Africa, tribes in South America, tribes in Asia are downloading these songs from a sweet dream because they still remember the intimacy associated with how precious it is to be alive. They still honor the ancestors. They still realize that we are like ancestors in training. That's why it's important how we live this life, because we're only going to be here for a short time, but we're going to be ancestors for the rest of time. And so we want to make sure you're good at it because it's going to be a long, long haul. And so that's one of the concerns and one of the ambitions, let's call it the protocols of Native people, is to walk the road, to tell the truth, to be kind, to honor the children, to honor the women, to honor Mother Nature, to honor the sacred, all these things. It's just, that's sustainable. It's even thrivable. I mean, we could bring it down. And today is something as simple as regenerative agriculture. Corporations are rarely using that. And so now we've used up 30% more resources than we can replace. If your house was burning down 30% faster than you could put the fire out, you got a problem. We got a real problem right now. We're losing, but on the good side, as much as topsoil as we've lost, there's a tribe in Kenya called the Maasai who have come up with microorganisms that help replace topsoil faster than anybody could ever imagine. And so there's good things happening. But no, I mean, who's going to go into the backwoods, the jungle, the bush of Kenya and talk to these Maasai people about farming? So it's really weird. I mean, the people with the microphones seem to make the most noise, and they usually seem to be the minority, even though they have the poor people have more money than 300 million people. And so it's ridiculous what's happening in that way. And so something has to change, and it will. I mean, it's nature abhors a vacuum, but if we don't replace it, nature will. But see, sometimes she's relentless because her desire to continue is stronger than our desire to destroy. So I mean, she's been at peak, for about 5 times. And so, but she keeps coming back, and so, but we call it earth keepers. it feels better to think we're keeping care of the earth, because people keepers just doesn't sound right. But I like humans and I want to keep them here. You know, some of my best friends are people.
Right.
Most of my best friends are dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Likewise, likewise.
Hmm.
Sadly, my best friend is not here anymore. Still makes me cry.
Oh,
But you talked about the topsoil, and there are some places on the earth, like Pat Miletich was on my show, Black Pill Digest, talking about this black earth topsoil that it's like a secret place where they harvest it from, but he sells this stuff and it fixes everybody's earth. Like you can put this stuff in sand and all of a sudden it's growing trees. Like it's amazing.
yeah.
So we do have some like protected perfect soil still. It's like, and and so like I also think that we are like you said, we're like part of nature, and we are the fruitation of that spirit of earth. Like earth created us, we're made of earth, like our atoms come from earth. And we are our spirit inhabits this earth for a short time to do what it wants. And the earth allows that. It created our bodies to do so. It's like here. And so, but it could have just as easily said, okay, here, make more dinosaurs. You know what I mean? So the dinosaurs mentality, that's gone. I keep telling my kid that, like, the universe doesn't want dinosaurs anymore. We are heart and care now. You know what I mean? It's like we've evolved as as an incarnating spirit on the planet. We have evolved into this. Like, if you really look at what humans really do, besides the death and the killing and all, the torture or whatever, what humans really are is care and love and, you know, making art. You know what I mean? That's like what we do best. And so the universe wants that, and the satanic force wants to like kill off all the humans. Oh, the humans are cancer. And but really that's because we are the enemy to them, because we are creating the good language. We are creating more love on the planet. We care. And they use that against us too. They're like, oh, they use our morality in a way to yoke us into their will. A lot of times. Just look at the left and how crazy they are. They think they're doing good when they're out, throwing tomato sauce on the Mona Lisa or whatever. It's anyway.
My grandmother used to say that when people got annoyed, she would say that my angels are annoying their demons. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
people, they don't get along. She said, and then she said something else. She said she thought the Creator created space so that we would have a place to put our art. And then she said the Creator created time so we'd have a place to put our music. So time and space was about art and music. She had a file cabinet with two drawers. Top drawer said art. The bottom drawer said not art. The bottom drawer was empty. When she died, top drawer was full.
I love
everything.
that.
Everything could be considered art once that you see things as beauty. It's beautiful. It's a point of view. One of the things that fascinates me about all of these decisions and ideas that people have is that it's been told to us that humans only see 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum of light, the optical range. And so 99% of the light that's available, we can't even see. There's no telling what's living in those dimensions. I mean, we can't see the viruses and the bacteria and the fungus that kills people. I mean, we electromagnetic magnifying glasses and microscopes and stuff maybe make something look, but we still don't know what we're looking at. It's math. You know, quantum physics is basically dreams and ideas and math. We
True.
can't really see the content without all kinds of equipment, you know. So what can we really
And
see?
imagination. The math is imagination too. Like,
Yeah,
but
imagination. My grandfather, when I was a young fella, he said, "The only nation I want to belong to is the imagination." My grandmother, his name was Charlie. My grandmother said, "Charlie, you're not part of the imagination. You're part of the hallucination."
that's great.
Yeah,
Oh, I would have loved to have been in that home.
they
That
were
must have
funny.
been.
Yeah.
They must have had some great language floating in the air. You know.
Yeah, when they got a hold of English, they used English with the same protocol that they used the native languages. So they wouldn't say mean things in English. They would only use the nicest words, you know, with English. I thought that's a good idea. You know, that's a
Yes.
real good idea because you know people once you say it, it's out there. You know what
Right.
I mean? You can't take it back. I mean, you can apologize, you can ask for forgiveness, but once you say it, I mean, they're still listening to it in outer space. They say if you go into outer space, you can hear voices from the 30s and the 20s and the 1800s. It's still energy and frequency going through space. So once you say it, you say, I'm going to affect the cosmos. And sometimes I think, you know, whoever came up with the name universe was on the ball because I think, you know, that translates into one song. And so
Yes.
if you thought we live within something called one song, and so then that would indicate that all the other aspects is part of the music. So we're actually part of an incredible cosmic sound. And
Yes.
so that's why harmony is so important. We harmonize. My grandfather, he was a keeper of the medicine, and he wouldn't say people are sick. He'd say people are sharp or they're flat.
Wow. Really.
Yeah, and
That's
so he used
interesting. And
tuning forks.
musical tone, like language, the
Yeah,
language
he
of
would use a
music.
tuning fork. If they came to see him, he'd go, boom, he'd touch it to their heads and boom, you know. And he said they just need a tune up. You know, they've gotten
Wow.
flat. They're not. They've lost their harmonic convergence. You know what I mean? They got to tune up so you can be harmonizing with the rest of the music, with the rest of the band. Stay in tune.
Right.
And so those words like that. I mean, a lot of people don't use the English language like that, but some people do. And so I think that's one of the best ways to use it is when you're talking about art and music and
Yeah.
timing and space.
Right. And then in your creation stands alone without you. We can, our bodies will go, but that creation might stay forever if you do it right. You know, like look at the pyramids, you know. It, so if you put the proper words into your song, others might remember it and keep singing it. Just like what was precious to the natives that had to walk the Trail of Tears, so the story you were speaking about earlier. If we're repeating this song of the ancestors, is that helping to strengthen us today? Is that part of the remembering to sing the songs?
Exactly. That's why we call it the Great Remembering. So we are, you know, we are a current version of the past and the next version of the future. If you think the past is simply a memory and the future is wrapped up in our imagination, so neither one of them are happening right now. The only thing that's happening right now is the present moment. And it's going by so fast at 68,000 miles an hour, it doesn't even really exist. So this whole thing is kind of a construct of our own language. That's why we say language is the fabric of this culture. Because if I say something to you and my words are intended for your ears, and then your ears try to decipher what I just said, based on your own personal experience and knowledge of the language I'm using, it's a miracle that we think we understand each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless we were both in the battle, unless we were both in Vietnam, unless we were both at the Grand Canyon on the East Bank, as if we were both in Greenwich Village in the 60s, if we were both in Paris, France on the West Bank, then we kind of understand what we're talking about. Otherwise, it's very difficult unless you open up your heart to love and respect and forgiveness and mercy and reverence and all these dignity. Then, even if you don't quite understand the other person, the empathy and compassion to understand that they're doing their best to try to communicate with you in a good way. So you just love the process. You don't judge it. You don't criticize it. You don't spread rumors and gossip about it. You talk about it in the forms of visions and dreams and ideas, and we're coming up with solutions. And so I think that's what the Zulu people call it in Daba. And they call the protocol Ubuntu. And I am because we are, and so that I've learned some really beautiful things from tribal people around the world, and Africa is one of my favorite places, the only continent in all four hemispheres. It's pretty amazing when you think about Africa, the motherland.
Right.
So I have a lot of connection with Zimbabwe and Botswana and South Africa, Mali and Kenya and Ghana and some other places too, but especially Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe always captured me because the Bavenda people who live in Zimbabwe told me Zimbabwe means stone houses, people who live in stone houses. And I live in a stone house. So I'm thinking, whoa, that's pretty coincidental. And our sweat lodge is a stone sweat lodge. And so
Right.
so I'm thinking about renaming my place Zimbabwe.
That's great. But it's interesting that these natives from so far away are speaking your same language.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have to be, in Greenwich Village together because you're both human together.
Right.
In
We're
this
on the same
paradise
planet.
of Earth, right? This paradise, right? And so that's where you start from. And I mean, that's where I hope to start from with all these conversations, really, is like to recognize the other person as a soul in flesh, and their words are from their higher being. I mean, sometimes they're confused and they're on their path of uncovering and growing. Everybody's on the path, and unless they're like Noam Chomsky and they take the money and they choose to go the other way. But forgiveness for those people that don't understand is important, because then because that can cause like a thing inside that the hate can like coalesce on and turn into a thing. So
I
really,
agree. Forgiveness is better for the person that's giving the forgiveness than it is the one you're forgiving, because they may not be changed. You say, I forgive you, and they might not say, well, I don't care. But your kidneys will, your liver will, your heart will, because that's where the peace comes, is when you actually forgive somebody, then they're no longer living rent free inside your body. You know what I mean? You let them go.
right.
And then you can, carry on. And then whatever they do is their own,
That helps you stay in tune.
Exactly. Harmonics. The harmonics.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And this has been a wonderful Indaba. So your book, The Great Remembering, is available October 6th, correct? Can you tell us about that, when it's available?
Yeah, well, I've actually sold a lot of copies already of pre-order.
Oh, right. There's a pre-order, and we will give the link for all the listeners to find that as well.
Yeah, it's earthkeepers.net. If you go to earthkeepers.net and then under the store, there'll be the book is in the store. And
that's wonderful. Yes,
so I'm going to Germany next week on the 22nd of September, and then we're going to do a some ceremonies in the Black Forest with 25 different tribal leaders from the Amazon who are going to be doing ceremonies for all the forests. They're telling me that if they actually, because they believe, like a lot of us believe, that the earth is just one thing. And so it's kind of like if you have in your body, I mean, if you stub your toe, your whole body gets involved. And so they're thinking that the Black Forest is sicker than most forests, even though the Amazon's still on fire. I mean, there's forests all over the world that are suffering right now, but the Black Forest is suffering more than most. And so they're going to meet over there with some healing ceremonies for that forest, and in their hearts feeling that they're affecting all the forest by affecting that forest. And so that's going to be part of this whole process when I call it the Great Remembering, to remember these things. And so I'll be over there for a couple of weeks doing ceremonies in the Black Forest in Thuringia. And then we'll be doing some ceremonies, and maybe sometimes I don't know about this one, but sometimes we go into other countries while we're over there. But Germany and Thuringia that's the first place we're going. And then I'll be back October 1st. And then, well, that's the plan. And then the book will be out on the 6th, which is the harvest full moon. Yeah, and it's being published in Greece, and it's going to be printed in German and in English. Yeah, the first editions.
That's wonderful. So the first harvest moon is this is when all the bounty of the summer is collected, and every all the tribal peoples prepare for the winter. I guess September 22nd is like the first day of winter. Fall. Yeah, fall.
The autumnal equinox.
Yeah, the autumnal equinox, right? But I'm thinking about
21st. Yeah.
I'm thinking about the ancient calendar of like Beltane is the beginning of, like, there's two seasons, summer and winter for them. Like Beltane begins the season of life, and then the fall begins the season of death. Like the shorter days. So like it basically. So yeah, you're aligning along with the same rhythms that humans have been doing since forever, as long as we've been planting plants and, farming and such. So this is wonderful. And the harvest is, we can collect the harvest of your good stories. You've been putting this together and growing this book, and now it is picked and washed and ready for sale. It's perfect. So the people, I will provide the link for that. Is for all the listeners to go. They can just scroll and click, and yeah, I guess and earthkeepers.net is where they can find. There's other products that you sell, bee pollen and other, like, it's the hub of all your work and what you do. So people can keep tabs on you and see what you're doing if they. And you also have a YouTube channel. I will link that. And you have an Instagram. So I will be sure to put all of those links.
Yeah. And we did a documentary last year on the forest called Caring for the Forest. And that's available on YouTube. It's about now. And then we're going to start another one on this trip on water. We're going to have a documentary about the significance and the sacredness of, water is life. I mean, people's, if all the governments were talking about children and water, one of the most amazing conversations I had that still impacts me when I think about it. I met a Maasai man, Sangoma, and it was a long story, but I was my first encounter with him, right? Big old boy, all dressed up. They like red, so he's all covered in red and all kinds of shades of red. And he walks over to me and he goes, and I got to say, I was a little frightened. Because he looks very stern. He goes, boom, so blah, blah, so blah, blah, no, no, no. And I looked at my interpreter. I said, did he just challenge me to a duel? He said,
Scary.
no, man. He asked you how the children are. I said, what? He said, yeah. He asked you how your children are. He said, because he said, whatever you tell him will tell him everything he needs to know about you and the place you come from on how you treat your children. Boy, my heart, I said, oh, this is, why aren't the people, this is how everybody should be talking. How are the babies? You know what I mean? You say, oh, the children are good. They're strong. They say, yes, then there's a future. You say, oh, the children are so confused. They have no idea. And so when the adults just go off the rails, like currently, then the children don't know what to do. You know what I mean? They're just scattered all over the place.
Yeah.
And so it's really significant that we understand the significance and bring our concentration and our decision making skills around water and children. I mean, there's so much more, but those are the first two places. Then we can go into topsoil.
Right.
You know? But I think children and water, I mean, there's life in the future right there. I mean, this is the two most significant aspects of our dream here on earth, keeping this sweet dream alive.
And we sing the songs for our children to listen to when they fall asleep into their sweet dreams. It's really a beautiful. I mean, if you can keep your kid out of public school, maybe they'll grow up to not hate you. Maybe don't send them to college, and then they won't get purple hair and piercings and hate you again. You know, like we used to be big families, and we used to have, you know, community was families, and now we're not even connected to each other. Hopefully everybody can remember. But this, you know, I think when I think of my child, I think he's good. I think there's room for improvement, obviously, but I'm happy and proud, and I look forward to his future. You know, as like, so that gives me reassurance that I'm doing. You know, I'm on the right path. And
I think it's important to remember that love is the healer and forgiveness is the medicine.
Right.
Yeah. If you take enough forgiveness, you'll fall back in love again.
I hope everybody heard that, because that's very important, especially for me too. In my own personal life, I'm gonna remember that, because I mean, that really language frames our reality, and love and forgiveness will frame our language. You know, it's like it all comes from the source of our care, and if we can put that above money, and then we'll stay on the path, we'll stay on the road, and we will remember. This has been just a real pleasure. Thank you so much, Tom.
You too. I appreciate what you do.
Awesome.
It's really important. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think I'll ever stop. I think it's like part of me now, and like I'm not a full person unless I'm doing this. So I'm just glad that you're helping, and you're here speaking your voice into the. I mean, it's recorded, and it will stand the test of time as long as people are sharing it, and as long as people are listening. This is a very powerful way of using our voice, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity, and listeners are listening. And thank you again for joining me, Tom.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, listeners, for joining, and we will see you next time on Wake the Dead. Okay.
Peace.